Good evening. My name is Joe Ledger, and I will be serving as tonight's moderator. On behalf of the Jefferson County Farm Bureau, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight via Facebook or YouTube, and remind you that you can submit questions for the candidates by email to jefferson.county@ifbf.org. Before we begin, I would like to go over the process for tonight's program. This is not a debate. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes for an opening statement. Following the introductions, each candidate will have the opportunity to answer questions that have been submitted by voters to jefferson.county@ifbf.org. We will rotate who answers each question first. Candidates' responses will be limited to 2 minutes and should be directed to the voters and not to the other candidate. After questions have been asked, each candidate will be given 2 minutes to prepare closing remarks. Candidates will then be given 3 minutes for their closing statements. With that, we will begin tonight's program with candidate D Sandquist.
Thank you to Farm Bureau for hosting this forum. My name is D Sandquist, and thank you for letting me be your current county supervisor. I grew up on a family farm east of Fairfield, moved away after college, and returned in 2008 to help my mom. My husband and I farm with the goal of preserving soil and water health. My career experience has been in managing people and services, mostly in healthcare in Iowa and the Pacific Northwest. I have a master's degree in management and am a former small business owner. Because I've lived elsewhere, I have a true understanding of the diversity of this community. Results. I'm known as a supervisor that asks, what's the result for that money spent? How's it measured? I participate on over 12 committees and work with 25 other county supervisors. I maintain tact and composure under stressful situations. Roads. We took action to pave over 15 miles of roads because they were no longer safe. Courthouse. It's cheaper to take care of the existing building than build a new one. Budget. Many people are on a fixed income, and I'm concerned about that. It's important for us to be efficient. Our budget comes down to 2 things. 1, what the state requires, and 2, what the public wants. Do you want well-maintained county roads? What if there's a pandemic? I believe in fiscal responsibility, and the supervisors are leading by example because we cut our own budget this year by $150,000. I believe in working with others to accomplish more, and we'll host a meeting of all the county taxing entities so we can learn about projects that affect the overall bottom line of taxpayers, because it's important to be consistent. I'm a member of economic development, and it's not only bringing in new businesses, but supporting the ones that are here. As a member of Early Childhood Iowa Board, I supported using funds for an independent study that showed we needed over 500 spaces for childcare, and it's a concern for 70% of the employers and 60% of the parents. Over 100 spaces have been added in the past 2 years. Mental health. I serve on the 8-county governance board. Mental health is as important as physical health. Locally, call Optime if you or a loved one are in need of mental help and don't know where to turn. Vision. I want to develop a system to coordinate with the jail, with mental health, with substance abuse, all to help people in poverty to be able to function in the workforce. We need a workforce in our community, and I have a diverse background for a diverse community.
Thank you, D. Thank you, Dee. Our next candidate will be Nick Adam.
Okay, I would like to thank Farm Bureau for putting on this forum, and I would also like to thank Joe and John for moderating it. Anyway, well, I'm Nick Adam, and I'm a resident of Batavia, Iowa. I've lived in this community since 1953. I'm a son of Walter and Mary Catherine Adam, and I'm from a family of 13 children. I've graduated from Cardinal High School in 1973, and I've married, and I have 2 sons and a daughter. In 1973, I started my farming and raising a family. My operation consisted then of corn, soybeans, and cattle operation. In 2000, I run for state representative for the state of Iowa. I've been building the Highway 34, went through Batavia. I had a convenience store that I built in Batavia, Iowa, and I worked with the DOT very, very well getting the off-ramp. I actually designed it, and they put it on their paper in Batavia, Iowa, so our convenience store could operate friendly. We built many storages in Batavia, Iowa. I built 7 homes in Batavia, Iowa. In 2004, I married Tina Wright from Richland, and she has 2 sons. In 2004, I took my 2 sons into the farming operation, and they become partners. This is when the farming operation expanded, and we went into only row crop, and we have 4 confinement buildings that we feed hogs for JBS. We have 4 full-time employees, and I also served on many boards. I've been on the school board, the church council, the Lions Club, the Farm Bureau, the Corn Growers, the Knights of Columbus, and the Soybean Association. And I have worked with many government agencies like the USDA, FSA, DOT, NRCS. And in my business, I've worked with budgets, cash flows, financials, and had to prioritize where our capital improvements went for the year in our farming operation. And that's about the end of what I have to say.
Thank you, Nick. Next, Keith.
Time to wake up?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Keith Vladimir, and like everybody else, I do appreciate the Farm Bureau coming up with this type of program for the people of the city and the county. I really didn't realize that this was happening, and the Chamber of Commerce, which I think is a very good deal in my own words to serve the people of the county. I'm probably the only one here that doesn't have a farming background. I was born in town and always lived in the city. I started working in this area, Fairfield, Tumwater area, about 1997. I was working with a consulting engineering firm in Cedar Rapids, and they were a subcontractor for CH2M Hill, which was the prime design firm for Highway 34, and that's how I got sort of introduced to this area. And the firm had was doing the survey work. And my part of the project was related to the boundary work, like section corners, property corners, and the right-of-way plats. I was laid off from the firm, and I knew there was an opening down here for the DOT, so I applied that, and I got that job, and that was as a district land surveyor. And that was about 17 years ago. So that's when I first started here. And then that's when my wife and I, and her 2 dogs, we moved here. And then about 10 years ago, I retired from the DOT. But I have a degree in civil engineering. I've worked in the engineering field. primary land surveying and highway design for probably 40 years. I have a professional, I've held professional land surveying licenses in 4 different states at one time. And let's see, I'm a member of the Kiwanis, 3 land surveying organizations, and the Farm Bureau. Since they presented this, I belong to the Farm Bureau. I'll give that a promotion. I volunteer at the Marsden Barns and Pioneer Days at Oakland Mills in Henry County. I'm on the Southeast Iowa Land Surveyors Planning Committee, and I am the past president of the Jefferson County Agency on Aging. I have been a SHIP counselor, which is a Senior Health Insurance Information Program to help people with Medicare and people who don't know Medicare and the drug programs. And the other one was Future Cities competition. I've been a judge and on the planning committee, and I'll give a plug for that because I think.
Thank you, Keith. And the last one for the opening statement is Susie.
Hello, and special thanks to the Farm Bureau guys for putting this special forum on. I really appreciate John and Joe doing this. My name is Susie Drisch, and I'm a lifelong resident of this county. I was raised on a farm and attended school in Pleasant Plain. I graduated from Fairfield Community Schools. I later attended and graduated from Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, with a Bachelor of Science degree in zoology, and I had enough credits to minor in chemistry, animal science, and physics. My first job after I moved back to Southeast Iowa was to administer and implement a youth community and conservation improvement program for the Ottumwa school system. I worked with youth doing projects in the Ottumwa community such as refurbishing the trails, picking up debris, helping these kids learn how to operate a lawnmower. We did have one go in the park in Ottumwa Pond, but that's neither here nor there. But basically, we were teaching these kids skills, the work skills they need so they could go further. It was their first step into the workplace. My next job was with Indian Hills Community College. I implemented and administered the Workforce Opportunity and Innovation Training Program. What we did is work with youth, adults, and dislocated workers in the 5 counties that was my responsibility: Jefferson, Wapello, Davis, Van Buren, and Keokuk counties. During that time, I had to be in constant contact with the employers because we needed to know, be able to help fill their jobs. We needed to know what kind of jobs they needed filled, what kind of employees they looked for, and what they anticipated their hiring needs were for the next year. We also did simple things with folks like teach them how to fill an application, do a resume, give them work experience, do an on-the-job training and classroom training. Over the 39 years that I did work for Indian Hills, I spent probably, well, it was in the millions of dollars, and we served over thousands of clients just in those 5 counties. At one point in Jefferson County, I had 500 clients alone when the Meritor plant closed. At any rate, I've had a lot of experience in workforce and training, helping folks. I want to continue helping folks as a county supervisor. I did have plenty of contact with the community action agencies, the supervisors, the economic development folks, the Chamber of Commerce's, the mayors in all the towns in the areas that I served. I also am at other organizations. I'm also a vice president of a local insurance mutual. I'm on the Jefferson County Extension Council. I'm also serving currently as a nomination director for the National Pony Organization, equine organization that I belong to, and I've done that job for 16 years, and I have to stop now.
The first question, we're going to alternate. The first question tonight, I will move down the line, and Nick, the first question will be directed to you first. What experience do you have that makes you the strongest candidate for Jefferson County Supervisor?
Okay, thank you, Joe. Well, I think I'm the strongest candidate because I've worked with, I've built convenience stores, I've built hog confinements, I've farmed for For 45 years of my life, I've managed up to $5 to $6 million budget in my own operation, and I've been very, very successful by doing that. And I feel that if I was the next supervisor, I would like to see a few little changes made, and I think that we could make changes. And I think, like, for instance, the one change I really like to have, I want to see this county grow, and I'd like to see the county give a $2,000 tax credit for 3 years for anybody that built a house in this county, because I believe that if we build houses in this county, we have an incentive for people to come to Jefferson County. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Nick. Keith?
Yes.
Same question. Would you like for me to read it again?
No, thank you. You want to know why I think I am the strongest candidate. Take me a while to figure this out, to my own words, but I guess my experience with dealing with the public, my commitment to doing what I think is ethical and how I think things should be done, and how I think employees should act, because I see, like when I worked with the DOT, what I see is you all paid my salary. I paid my salary. So how can I complain about other people and how they were doing, wasting time, I guess, is doing things not productive. So how could I complain about them and me act like they do? So I felt, and I feel like I need to work for everybody, and I need to do the best job I can. I'm not afraid to learn. I think learning is important no matter how old you are. And I've worked with people really well. I've interacted with people within this area. When I was a district land surveyor, worked with people in Ames very well. And my best thing is my work ethic, my commitment to be very ethical and listen to people. And it's important to listen to people and read signs and pay attention. And my experience is, like everybody else here has their own experience, and I have mine. And I think I bring new ideas and maybe new experience to the citizens of the county.
Thank you, Keith. Susie, you're the last one here. No. Susie, you are the next one.
Okay, because I was going to say,
No, I'm my fault.
okay, I think one of my strongest suits is the fact that I can always listen to folks. I love to listen to folks and hear what they say. I think if I get to be your supervisor, the one thing I'm going to commit to doing is going around quarterly to the little towns to maybe a council meeting and listening to what they have to say. Because, it's just like Keith said, we're not afraid to learn. We just need to be very good at networking and listening to folks so we know truly what we're dealing with and how maybe to solve a problem. I think that my knowledge of the county and all the agencies in the county, and even with the supervisors, I dealt a lot with the supervisors when I was employed. I just think it's a very good characteristic to have somebody that is aware of all the players and has the ability to listen, and I think I'm that person. I'm done.
Thank you, Susie. D?
by unfunded mandates, so we need to figure out how to break down silos, have more teamwork, and get things done together, because that's how we get more done overall. Sometimes I'm a leader, sometimes I'm a catalyst behind the scenes. I work with a lot of different organizations, people, and groups, and find that sometimes a conversation in itself can be a catalyst for change in the future. So it can spark an idea in someone, and then they can take action. I've shown that I take action on things in a cost-effective manner. It's a challenge because there's many moving parts and priorities. And then I guess finally, I have very good people skills and business skills, and I'm open to what people have to say.
Thank you, Dee. The next question will be directed to Keith first. What do you feel is the most pressing issue facing Jefferson County?
My answer is I don't know what the most pressing issue is in the county. I have my own ideas of what I think are a problem, and one of them was the ambulance service, because my neighbor had a heart attack, well, he basically died. But that ambulance service, I don't think they were serving the people very well. I don't like how they tried to resuscitate my neighbor. I don't like him almost dropping him off the gurney. So I think there needs to be a better improvement in that. I know there's a new contract out for that, so in a different company. The other one, I think, is mental health. We are in this part of the state short of psychiatrists. See, we have plenty of counselors, but there's no psychiatrist. The money that's available is not very sufficient, and there never is money sufficient for that. And the reason I'm concerned about that is because I have depression, and that's why I see the counselor. And it's just not there. The service and the people just aren't there for this area. It's pretty sad. The other one is my interest is in county roads, since that was what I was involved with for 40 years, making sure that they're up to date, kept safe for people, and that is a hard thing to do in a county because of the limited amount of revenue that's available, and everything takes a lot of money. Bridges take a lot of money, culverts take a lot of money, and SDOP.
Thank you, Keith.
Hey, Joe. We're getting comments from everybody at home. Would you please speak into your microphones a little bit clearer? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Susie, you are the next to answer.
Would you repeat the question, Joe?
Sure, I can. What do you feel is the most pressing issue facing Jefferson County?
You know, I think the most pressing issue to me would be the fact of, since we're living in the era of COVID now, would be the budget. I had a conversation with the treasurer of Van Buren County, who had stated they were $127,000 in arrears, and it was owed that money. So I wonder where we're at as a county. I wonder where we're going to be at as a county when our fall taxes come in, that are coming in the end of this month. And you wonder how many services or what we're going to have to cut back on, because of the money coming in or not coming in. We have a lot of obligations. I also sit and I think about how, the supervisors have really, I think I was under the impression, I was heard that Russ is now controlling or dealing with the nuisance properties in the county, which I don't have an answer for. It just gives a question to me. I also have heard that, or I guess I personally feel, that maybe we need to deal with the county human service and have a human service person that deals with the issues of the employees of the county on a uniform across the board level that maybe isn't done by somebody out of state. I personally feel maybe we need a part-time HR person in this county. That would take care of all the grievances, all the problems that we have in the county. So it would be, like I said, it would be fair to all the employees that work for this county, and I believe there's over 200 folks that work for this county. I don't really know of any other employer that has 200 folks working for it that doesn't have an HR person. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Susie. Dee?
I'd say probably the most pressing issue depends on the day and the week and the budget and the new state mandate. What I can say is we have lots of responsibilities, so that's our most pressing issue, is to address those in a fiscally responsible manner. We have made progress on infrastructure. We still have ways to go. There's a new ambulance service that starts October 1st. If I'm reelected, I do want to be the representative to that board because I have a strong healthcare background, and I also want to see prompt professional service. Roads and mental health are always important. I do believe physical health and mental health are equally important. And we've made progress in our county. We updated the employee handbook that hadn't been done since 2012. So we have a contract with a firm in Des Moines for burning questions. I would like to see a part-time HR position. Most counties usually contract with someone. However, we need to find the money. Nuisance properties are an ongoing challenge. It becomes a challenge of, do you want the county to handle it, or do we repeal our ordinance and then you would sue your neighbor in civil court if you had a nuisance with them? So that's one of the criteria that we need to struggle with, and I really value input and your opinion on that because there is no right or wrong answer. It's what works for most of the people most of the time. I think we need to focus on what we have in common. We have such a diverse community. I think sometimes that gets in the way of progress and economic development. So I'd like to see us really focus on what we have in common and work together. We made some strides to do that. Farm Bureau was involved in that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. Nick?
Thank you. Some of my biggest concerns is taxes of the county roads, and of course taxes I think are something that is going to continue to go ongoing, and I don't know how we're going to have to either cut some things out or something because we continue to raise taxes. The county roads is something that's always been a bother of mine, is because I see these maintainers go up and down the roads, and we've done this for 40 years of my life, watching maintainers every 6 weeks or something, they maintain the road. And to me, and maybe it's being done, but I don't see it being done. We need to prioritize our roads. The highway, when they have a road, they do car count. They say, okay, there's so many cars going this road, so we got to build a 4-lane highway. Well, I believe that these maintainers ought to have a car count on every road in this county and say, there's roads that are being maintained. When that maintainer leaves in the morning, he maintains all of his roads at the end of the day. And I say we need to prioritize the roads and take care of the most important roads and treat them differently, is what I think, because I don't think we need to. We got maintainers that they've improved them and improved them and improved them. Are we doing more roads in this county? Are we getting more out of that maintainer that we're buying brand new? And my question is if we're not, we need to be changing the way we grade the roads, the way we operate, because I see roads that don't need to be graded that 3 cars a day, and we're grading them the same time as we are with 100 cars a day. And so I think we're wasting a lot of time. We need to prioritize the roads that really need care. That's what I think.
Thank you, Nick. The next question, we will start with Susie. Question. With farm equipment getting larger and more semis on the rural gravel roads. What is your opinion on widening the county's gravel roads or stopping the process of narrowing to the state minimum? Susie.
You know, geez, out where I live, Joe, there's, if you go out Glasgow and turn north on Redwood, I believe you've already widened that road. I saw a farmer go down the road the other day with a hay baler, and he didn't have it pulled in, and it took a mailbox off, just, you know. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but it surely needs looked at from the point of safety, because you have to be careful with stuff. Like I said, I'm not sure what the answer is, but I will sure look into it.
Thank you, Susie. Dee? Yes, I can. With farm equipment getting larger and more semis on the rural gravel roads, what is your opinion on widening the county's gravel roads or stopping the process of narrowing to the state minimum?
And that's what the roads are once they clean out the ditches and do some work on them so they'll drain better and last longer. Often people think they narrow the roads. What happens is they recrown them so the water drains better. It's a continual problem. Every time a ditch gets cleaned out and that happens, we get calls, you narrowed our road. What happens is when it gets bladed again, it'll tend to go back, maybe not as wide as it was. The reality is the requirements for road width has not changed in several decades, and equipment has gotten larger. So it comes down to money. How much do we want to spend on roads? And that's where I do believe I heard that Farm Bureau wanted to start a road advisory committee for us, and we would most welcome that as supervisors, because we do value input and we all get feedback from farmers on a regular basis. We have traffic accounts that tell us what roads are busy. The good news is the ones we just paved were the most busiest, because that's one thing I asked. I said, we're going to spend a lot of money. We need to make sure we're paving the right roads. So it's working together again, identifying priorities. The traffic count's available on the DOT website for anybody to pull up. It's done every few years, I believe 3 or 4. I'd like to see a traffic count on Nutmeg come harvest season, and I've asked for that ever since I've been a supervisor. The other thing we're doing is we're doing a base stabilization pilot. I'm a firm believer in pilots. Let's see if it works on a small scale. That's on Nutmeg currently. We didn't have the correct equipment, so it's not as good as it could be, but it does show promise that would greatly lengthen the life of gravel, hence reduce cost. It also increases dust control, so we have reduced cost in maintenance.
Thank you, Dee. Nick?
I'm next.
Yes.
I believe the roads are adequate. I think they're to grade. I think what we're going to see with bigger equipment and stuff, if we make the roads bigger, all we're going to do is make bigger equipment, and we're going to go faster. And my opinion is, I think that we're going to do, and very soon, it'll be a mandate that a car with a road that's got so much traffic on that you will, I think dust control is the biggest problem we have today. We're hauling grain today, and the dust is so bad. We're treating our road with water every day just so we can see, so we have an accident. But there's plenty of width, there's plenty of road. I mean, I don't know how you can buy another 20 foot of right and widen the ditches and widen the roads, because the roads are adequately, that I could see, we're running semis up and down every gravel road there is, and they're adequate in my book, but I do believe that it's going to be soon and very soon, and we gotta, these gravel roads, we gotta maintain them some way less that doesn't just keep grinding and grinding and grinding that rock, and then they keep rolling it to the shoulder, and then the snow comes, they just roll that edge over into the greater ditch, and we get the roads wider, then we ditch them back out, throw it back on, then we bring the dirt ball back on, then we have to haul more rock. So it's a continual maintenance problem, but I believe the roads are fine the way they are. just need to realize that this big equipment is big and it's got to go down that road. So we got flashing lights. I mean, John Deere puts every light on that equipment to slow you down. But if you're on your telephone texting and stuff, you're not going to pay any attention to it. So anyway, that's my story.
Thank you, Nick. Keith?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure I can. With farm equipment getting larger and more semis on the rural gravel roads, what is your opinion on widening the county's gravel roads or stopping the process of narrowing to the state minimum?
My opinion is, who's going to pay for it? If you widen the roads, who's going to pay for it? You're going to have to buy more right-of-way. Somebody's got to pay for that. I don't see the farmers donating that anymore. It used to be that if you wanted a road, you had to donate the right-of-way. That was simple. And I don't see that anymore. So who's going to pay for it? That's all what it comes down to. If the road width mandates it, so you make it wider. But otherwise, you just keep it the same. There's no reason to change it. It all comes down to money to me. I mean, you're going to pay for it. That's my opinion on it.
Thank you, Keith. Question number 4. Okay, we will start with D on this one. What is the most viable approach to see that properties in non-compliance of nuisance rules becomes compliant? Yeah, in this county, we have a lot of nuisance.
How timely you are. Okay, that's one of the first things I noticed when I became a supervisor. The process was very subjective. And so at that time, we decided we need somebody independent to really make this call. Because the year I was chair, which was 3 years ago, we handled over probably 22 to 26 nuisances. The other piece is we needed to work with the county attorney's office and the court system. And so we now have the process and we want to see it through, and then we can make a decision on, does this really work or not? So where are we currently? We contract with Russ for a little more money than I would like to see. It's about $50,000 a year. I'd rather put part of that to HR. But we want to see this process through because, again, it comes down to, do you want the county to pay for it or do you want to sue your neighbor in civil court? That's as simple and as complicated as that. So where we are is we currently have cleaned up recently 13 cases. We have several pending, and I can tell you on our agenda, we're going to have a priority list that we start of properties that the county will probably go into and clean up. We're able to find some money to do that. And again, it's a pilot to see how that works because the money that we spend can be put against the taxes. And so also we're hoping that we can contract with somebody to clean it up for like scrap iron and that, so that's not going to cost us much money. So we will recoup the money at the time taxes are paid because it'll get added to that. Then after that, we'll really evaluate, is the system working or not? Because some people really are not going to keep their property up. They clean it up, and in a couple years later, it's back to being a nuisance.
Thank you, Dee. Nick?
Okay. My question is do we vote for? We went through this zoning thing about less than 10 years ago, and people throw a fit about it. But I don't know what the ordinance is on nuisance and who makes that judgment call. Is it a county supervisor that drives around the county and says, okay, that is a nuisance? And so I think we got to put teeth in the nuisance county rules to see to it that everybody abides by the rules. And and whatever the rules are, if it's so many ton or so many on your property or so much junk, because I got a nuisance on my road. They park all they got a shop there and they park all their trucks on the side of the road. County right of way. Who's liable? Is it the county liable or is it me? And that's some of the things that I think we got to make a real good nuisance ruling and enforce it and not play the game, well, you're my friend and I'll let it go, and one neighbor to another neighbor. It can't be a neighbor enforcing it. It's got to be somebody in the county. That's their job. That's what I think.
Thank you, Nick. Keith?
Can you repeat that again, please?
What is the most viable approach to see that these properties in noncompliance of nuisance rules becomes compliant?
Well, to be honest, I haven't paid any attention to the nuisance rules or any nuisances in the county, other than, like Nick, somebody needs to be out there. It needs to be consistent, just like in town. My neighborhood leaves something to be desired because of some people moved in. And there's nobody that wants to do anything. I think whoever does this, the county or the city, needs to be proactive, and instead of waiting for people to complain, if you see something, you need to report it, and hopefully it will be taken care of. Because how can you expect other people, why do you wait for other people to complain or point something out? You can drive by the same thing and just ignore it. Oh, whoever does this, or even any county employee, whether it's a supervisor, sheriff, or whatever, they need to report it and be a little bit more proactive, and that's my feelings on that.
Thank you. Susie?
You know, I do think we have to be very proactive with this. I do think we have to go evenly across the board with how this is done. As I said before, I would like to see it handled by someone in a county rather than Russ. Might save us a little money if we did that. And you know, I think we really need to get on this, because I can think of one property in particular out by where I grew up. It is continually a mess. And it doesn't just affect that property, but the neighbors beside them. And when places are a mess, it's really not healthy. What if it's a health hazard? And I do think we need to deal with it, but in a very consistent way. And if we can see somebody doing it, that'd be great. If we can have a job in this county, somebody that handles that, great. But it needs dealt with.
Thank you, Susie. Question number 5. Okay. What is your opinion on bonding for projects? We'll start with Nick on this one.
Well, that's kind of a touchy situation. I guess I would, if that's what we need to do to raise money I think that bonding should be in our 5-year plan, what our plans are and how we're going to pay for it through bonding or through TIF or anything else. I think that we need to put that in what our plans are when we do a road. And I think some of the roads in this county, it's amazing that we should be able, I think, some way, find a way to connect 2 to 3 miles of road some way with hard surface in this county per year is what I think. And if we have to bond for it, that's what we should have to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Keith?
Well, I think for the state, county, or the city, bonding has been a way to get funds so you can have a project or projects that need to be done and not just let them just sit there and things fall apart. Or because if you don't repair them or take care of them, they just deteriorate. Bridge, roads, buildings. And I see bonding as a way to really advance the project along. The state did it in the 20s to get us out of the mud. And that worked out well. And there's always been things that have always been bonded. I'm in favor of it. I don't see any problem with bonding, as long as they don't get too carried away with it and just keep bonding, and then your rating will go down. But I just have no problem with bonding.
Thank you, Keith. Susie?
You know, I would certainly consider bonding. I was sitting here thinking about, you know, if you have some shingles loose on your house, is it smarter to fix them or will they all blow off? So, you know, if we need to do bonding to get some projects done before it gets too expensive, I think we should definitely consider that. I'm done.
Thank you, Susie. D?
I believe that bonding should be one of the last resorts we look at, and you'll say, well, Dee, you voted for bonding for the roads, and yes, I did, because the roads were falling apart so badly, we needed to fix them. The can had been kicked down the road long enough, and they were built in the 80s, so it was time to take some action there. I'm concerned about the state law that requires 2% cap counties and cities. I think one of the unintended consequences on that is going to be more counties and cities bonding, and that could have a snowball effect. What I mean specifically is the state decided that counties can only increase their budget by 2%. Yes, that's great. I can tell you our healthcare and employee salaries go up probably just about as much as that, and we struggled this year. That's why the supervisors cut $150,000 from our budget. But we're getting down to cutting all the discretionary spending that we had for some community projects. I believe we need to revise the comprehensive plan and really look at long-term what we need to do as a county. The city just did theirs, and it would make sense to collaborate with them where we can gain some economies of scale, do things more efficiently. We were able to pave the roads and save a lot of money because we did pave over 15 miles of road at once instead of just paving a few. We had such a good credit rating, it was AAA minus, that we were able to get funds by the time we borrowed it. And this went on over a year of a period. You don't just wake up one day and say, oh, we're going to bond. It's a whole process. That our borrowing rate's about 2.2% to be paid back 16 to 20 years, and we can pay that sooner if we have to find the money.
Thank you, Dee. The next question. We'll start with Keith on this one. What can the Board of Supervisors do to bring jobs to the county?
That's really a tough question as far as I'm concerned. It takes everybody to work together. It takes the county and the city and maybe other cities in the area to try to get somebody to come in. And right at the moment, I think it's very hard to get companies to think about moving or expanding. You can put out videos of how great the place is, how good the place is, what wonderful people there are, and somebody just has to take it and run with it. Or the roads need to be adequate enough to get the right industries, the right companies to come through. Got 4-lane for 34, 218 now. And 63 going south is not going to be a 4-lane road, which I feel it should be a 4-lane road, even all the way down to the Missouri border. It would give us the area better access for the heavier trucks, more trucks, because that's where everything is nowadays. Everything's hauled by truck. And without that infrastructure, you're not going to have anything. Nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to come if if like the nuisance laws aren't enforced, the properties out in the county are not cleaned up. Yards aren't, grass is not cut, trees aren't trimmed, the simple little things like that. And that's where, thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Susie?
You know, first of all, I think as far as bringing jobs to our county, right now we don't have the workforce to fill those jobs. Many of the companies in town have folks that come from Wapello County, from Van Buren County, Keosauqua, from Birmingham, some from Mount Pleasant. We don't have the workforce locally to do that. That is one thing that really attracts employers, if you've got the workforce to fill the needs they want or they need to do their job. 20 years ago, before Meritor closed and ACO Chain closed and Malibu closed, we had the workforce. But that workforce has aged. They've retrained. They're in other occupations now. So I'm not real sure what the answer is. But I do believe we need to look at our workforce. But I do believe you also can attract employers by just going and talking to them, talking about the quality of life, the diversity we have in this county. You know, we're a very eclectic county, and it wouldn't take a lot to train some of those folks for those positions. Years ago at Indian Hills, we used to actually train folks for Meritor by giving them a math class so they could go into the factory and be a little more productive, just based on how they had to build patterns and stuff like this. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Susie. Dee?
Can you repeat the question, please?
If I get to the right one. What can the Board of Supervisors do to bring jobs to the county?
We can support economic development. We participate in Area Regional 15 planning, and also I serve on the Economic Development Board. Specifically, our workforce needs to be ready to work. We can't ask a business to come in if we don't have people ready and willing to work. That means they show up on time, they have the skills and abilities to do the work. We need housing that's affordable, somewhere in the $130,000 to $160,000 range. That means workforce housing. In the past 5 years, over $10 million in assessed valuations been added in housing here, and there's another $8 million slated in the next 5 years. That still means we need people. So it all works together. It's childcare, it's mental health, it's workforce, it's let's get people out of the jails and someplace other than their previous environment so that they can learn new skills. I've seen this work where I visited the well in Pella, and there's one coming to Fairfield. I'm very hopeful we'll be able to, as a community, complement and work together. I was able to see workers who either potentially had mental health or substance abuse problems receive skills and learn to make parts for local businesses. I think there's real promise in this approach, and then they have a skill that they can go work when they pass their program. I also want to see that we get people out of poverty, and that means, again, let's addressing the root causes, which of course is complex, but it starts with a real strong support network in a community, and that's going to be a public-private partnership.
Thank you, Dee. Nick?
Yeah,
Yes, well, I think it's fairly simple, really, if you want to know the truth. It's people. You got to have people in this community. So to me, the community, the Fairfield, the towns, the local towns, we got to offer good jobs. We don't want jobs that are $10 an hour. We got them all over the place. We need good jobs. And I believe in the next 3 to 5 years is what I believe, that people are going to come here like flies, because here's the reason why. We got a good school system. We don't have riots. We don't have people shooting people and things like this. But I say is we offer incentives where I don't think we're doing a good enough job, because we have one of the best counties in the state of Iowa. We have the lowest coronavirus rate in the state of Iowa, Jefferson County is. And I believe that if we bring good jobs to Fairfield, Iowa, these people are going to come from New York City, and they're going to come to our town, and they're going to live and raise their family here because they want them to be safe. So all we have to do, I see jobs everywhere up and down the road. We got to offer better jobs. The job market is about supply and demand. If you pay enough, somebody says, I can't hire a guy to run a sprayer. I said, what are you paying him? Oh, we're paying him $12 an hour. I said, try $25 an hour and see if you can hire him. Because that's what I said. I said, you gotta pay more to get people to come. And to me, is like I said, why don't we offer in this county, like I said, a $2,000 tax cut and build a new house here? Because we're going to bring people from New York. They're going to be on computers. They're going to work from their home. I got them working for me right now out of their home. And I'm saying is, well, we got to get ready for this is what's coming. And we got to get the pay up here so people will say, why wouldn't I come to Jefferson County? Jefferson County is the best county in southeast Iowa. Well, this is the reason we got to say.
Thank you, Nick. Next question, we will start with Susie. County budgeting decisions can result in property tax increases. As decisions are made to manage the county's financial resources, how would you protect property taxpayers?
Boy, Joe, that's a really good question. I believe just within the last 5 years, the taxes on the farm have went up 27%. So I'm very sensitive to the increase of taxes. I'm not sure. I think if you want the county to be able to do things, you've got to go back and trim your budget. You've got to get people, let's say, if they take care of those nuisance properties and they make them a better, let's say the yards are mowed, the brush is clipped, the house is inhabitable. Maybe if somebody buys those, even if it's in a tax sale, that'll increase somewhat, but I'm not real sure what the answer is, because I think we're in dire straits with budgeting this year especially. I do not know. Yeah.
Thank you, Susie. D?
Can you repeat the question?
County budgeting decisions can result in property tax increases. As decisions are made to manage the county's financial resources, how would you protect property taxpayers?
As you can imagine, it's very complicated because the state continually passes laws and doesn't fund them and requires us to provide services. That said, in the old system, when I first started 4 years ago, it was about keeping the tax rate consistent. We want to maintain somewhat consistency. 1 year it might go up a little and down. What has changed is the state mandate all the assessors to reevaluate the properties. So through the last several years, each of our properties, whether in your commercial, industrial, residential, multi-residential, whatever it was, property has been reevaluated according to criteria by the state of Iowa. We have no control on that. What that means is in most cases, the values have increased. So you can see if we continue to keep that tax rate the same, taxes are going to go up. So our challenge is we do need to figure out how to spend less, but do it wisely. That's why we set an example this year and started with the supervisors with our own budget. Next year, it will be my turn to be chair if I'm reelected, and what I want to do is have the department heads come with budget meetings with a 3-year plan. What do you absolutely need now? What's the consequence if you put it off a few years? And we've talked previously about equipment such as maintainers and those things. We have been working on that and ways to extend the life of those. And also, I want to see that our department heads work together more as a team so that maybe we can say, okay, what can we do together that will help us serve people better with less dollars? And we really do need to take an active approach.
Thank you, Dee. Nick?
I'm next.
Yes.
Well, I believe it's all in growth. I mean, if you have growth, you don't have to raise taxes, right? So here we build a $27 million elevator out here. We fought it to get it built. And then, you know what? They asked for a little bit of help. What did our county do for them? They did nothing that I understand for them, and they'd like to build another 8 bins. What are we going to do for them? We got to be proactive and go to companies and give them incentives to come to, because if we have people come here, we build houses. If we build why don't we have, instead of building a barn out here south of the 4-lane, why don't we build 20 houses and put people in there? When you bring people in, when you build more production, you pay, everybody pays less taxes, but they're going to pay more, because when you bring, like we got Rockwell out here, we got all these factories that have closed up, and we need to bring them back because they're paying the taxes. You know, I don't know what the number is, but it's huge that Heartland Co-op's paying in taxes. Why aren't we getting that road paved? And why don't we get them, say, we'll you a tax incentive to build 8 more bins, because we're going to give you something for the next 2 or 3 years, but we're going to tax you for the next 50 years. So at the end of the day, if we give a little, we'll get a little in the back end, and we don't have to raise taxes to everybody. We just need to manage the money we have. That's the way I feel about it.
Thank you, Nick. Keith?
Watching out for money for people in the county is almost like watching out for your own personal income. If you don't have the income in, you can't spend. And you have to make decisions of what you really want or what you need. And that is what the supervisors, they have done. I think they do a real good job, personally. But you have to make decisions. You're going to have to cut programs out. You're going to make people mad, but you got to do it. The federal government has mandated programs for the state. They don't fund it. Those programs get pushed down to the county and the cities, and it's still not funded. Somebody's got to pay for it. And it falls on the cities and the counties to fund those programs. And there's nothing you can do about it, because that's just the way it is from the other governments. So in order to do those programs, which are mandated, you got to cut someplace. And you got to be vigilant about what you're doing. We're all come back to money, and it's how you manage your money, and it's how much money you have to manage. And I guess that's about it. It's all about money, and people. Some people just don't understand that there's only so much money and there's so much.
Do you think there is a need for more rural protection from the Sheriff's Department? And if so, how would you fund it? And we will start with D on the last question.
You know, I got that question 4 years ago when I ran. And we gave them a deputy. And that, I think we need to look at how their deputies are scheduled first, and that's really up to the sheriff and his department. We have that conversation every year. The challenge is we have an excellent place that people want to work in the sheriff's department, so we have a lot of long-time employees. That means they get more vacation time, and that means you have to have somebody there to cover when they're off. So that's part of the reason that we gave them a deputy, and then also it was to get 2 people on the night shift. So I think we need to first look and do a comparison with other communities and look at crime rates with like-sized communities in our area, like Henry, Washington counties, even Van Buren, even though they're smaller, they're in the neighborhood and we can learn a lot. Oftentimes I'll call other supervisors and say, hey, what's your road budget? How many mechanics do you have? You know, road crew, or in this case, sheriffs. So I think we can learn from each other. That doesn't mean everybody has the same system and we're all going to be the same model, but we need to really get some goals, and that's where I go back to what are your goals for the next 3 years? What do you see as major expenses? And so I know I see deputies out driving in the country throughout the community. I think they're doing a pretty good job most of the time getting out and about. I know they try to. So I'd say they need to make a case for additional rural protection, or the public needs to really tell us, hey, we need more protection.
Thank you, Dee. Nick?
I think that question should have been addressed to the sheriff's department, really, because they're the ones that control the county, and we budget their money, and if they need more money, they need to come to us to ask for it. I just don't think that's a question that should be answered by us. I think it should be answered by the sheriff's department is what I think.
Thank you, Nick. Keith?
Well, that's just, I just never thought about that, but maybe to go on what Nick said, that is the sheriff's department. They need to come up with a solution. The supervisors can have input. They can put a suggestion out, whether the sheriff's department likes it or not, but everybody worked together on it, and it just takes everybody to work together. I mean, what are the supervisors going to do? They can't force the sheriff to do anything. Everybody in the courthouses are separate little entities, whether anybody realizes that or not. The sheriff's department is its own entity. The supervisors, the only thing they have is just the budget. So they can make suggestions, and that's as far as they can. That's as far as you can go. Just work together, and maybe you can point out some deficiencies. People always call into the supervisors complaining about this and this, and they'll complain about one of the things, but you just pass it on. So it just takes everybody to work together, and like I said, it's out of the supervisor's control.
Thank you, Keith. Susie?
I do agree that I do feel we need more rural protection. I know the supervisors can't do anything other than to pass the budget based on what the sheriff asks for or they negotiate. I think of times where maybe there's a deputy down by Libertyville or over by Lockridge, and the bank in Packwood gets robbed yet again. So, we're always going to have that because of how we are in the county and where the small towns are. And, if we could have another deputy, I think there's 2 at night. I'm not sure, but usually there's 2 at night. But, you can't be every place all the time. But I do think it's something they should consider, maybe a better way to do coverage for the county with their deputies.
Thank you, Susie. We will now have a 2-minute break to allow the candidates to prepare their closing statements. Following the 2 minutes, each candidate will have 3 minutes to give their closing remarks. We will begin with our closing remarks, and we will start with D.
Again, thank you for tonight, and please contact me if you have any questions. My information's on the county website. My phone number is 641-451-1293. Feel free to give me a call. I'll clear up a couple things, and then nuisance objectives. We are moving forward on the nuisance process. We've been working on that. We went from a subjective to an objective system. Although there are things I'd like to change about it, we want to see this process through so we can see what really works and what doesn't. I think it's important everybody understands the role of the county supervisors. We are the administrative arm of the county. The city has a city administrator. We, the three of us, are the county administrators, so to say. Most of what we do is defined by the state constitution and state law. We are the general manager. We act in finance, budgets, issues of taxation. And so we do need to look at budgeting differently because there's a new state law that allows us 2% allowable growth. And each elected official reports to you, the public. They don't report to the supervisors. So you have the sheriff, the county attorney, recorder, treasurer, they all, an auditor, they all report to you, the public. Yes, we do work together. Economic development is probably the best way to lower taxes for all of us, grow the tax base, but we need to support it with well thought out workforce availability and affordable housing for workforce and support for mental health. I know we're going to have some COVID budget challenges. One of those is going to be our road use tax is going to be decreased, and so we will be dealing with that once we find out. I found out that the treasurer payments are on target just about for what they were last year this time, so they're not significantly lower. I'm an advocate for Jefferson County. Anytime when I did go to state meetings before everything was on Zoom, I would go up and talk to the speakers afterwards and invite them to Jefferson County. From that, I got Mike Nagg, the Secretary of Ag, to come visit our farm and learn about niche pork. He was very, very enlightened and appreciative. Rob Sand, I invited him down to talk with local health care providers about the issues with Medicaid privatization. We had everybody from providers, we had family members that really talked about it. What this does is give me a contact at the state level that I can put a name and a face with to contact when we need help and to listen to us. I always advocate for our county residents, regardless of everything else.
Thank you, Dee. Nick?
Yeah, my closing statement is that I really think that all we talk about is cutting taxes, cutting taxes, cutting taxes. We know that's a pipe dream. We can't cut taxes. The salaries is the biggest expense in this county, and to me, I think that if we do a few things in growth, we won't have to cut. And then I believe that I think, like we talked, it was a big thing at the sheriff's office debate, I think, is about overtime. And I don't know if we have comp time in this county, but I think if we don't, we should be working on comp time for our county employees when they work overtime. There ought to be an engineer somewhere that can say, you know what, you got credit for 2 hours, go home early today. And then also, I think that we really need to focus in this county is hiring our local businesses. Local businesses telling me that we're going out of town to hire people to do things in this county. And to me, I think we need to support the people that support us. That's one other thing. And I think that everybody in the county, I don't care whether you're from Vedic City or Pleasant Plain, Iowa, we need to treat people the same. We don't need to be a favoritism in people. And also, I think we need to take a hard look at county equipment, and maybe the things out there that I think we should do is maybe we should contract it to we got 3 or 4 local contractors in this town, and maybe we can't afford. And if to me is I'll go back to that comp time, is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If we could finish a job in 2 hours, the road foreman should say, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to finish this job and go home. We're not going to go home 2 hours early and come back tomorrow and then take another half a day to get it done. So I believe that if we have comp time, that these people out there on the job can do their job and not worried about getting back at the office at 2:30 in the afternoon, because I've seen them before that they want to make sure they get back there, so we make sure we leave a little early. And I believe that as a candidate for supervisor, I think I'm a very strong candidate, and I think that I'm a very good negotiator, and I think that on November 3rd, I'd appreciate everyone's vote for me to be the next supervisor.
Thank you, Nick. Keith?
Well, I think some of the questions that people asked were very good questions and very pertinent to the point. One of the things I've always thought about is wherever you work, especially for a city or a county, is to be proactive. If somebody that is employed by the county, no matter who it is, if they see something that needs to be fixed, just don't drive by and not tell anybody. Or something needs to be cleaned up. If you drive by and don't tell anybody, then what happens if an accident happens? Who's liable for it? It's going to be the county. And who's going to pay for it? We, the taxpayers, are going to wind up paying for it, basically. And when it comes to the workforce or the environment, cities and counties should get together and to attract business. They don't have to be specifically in this town. They don't have to be in this county. They can be in an adjoining county or adjoining city. Winnebago and Forest City does not have the population to support Winnebago, but the whole area has a population to support that. I mean, they go from Forest City, people from Manly will drive there, which is probably about an hour and a half. So you have to work down in this area, you have to work with other counties. Cedar Rapids, they'll work with other cities that are adjoining them. In fact, when places moved out of Cedar Rapids and moved into Marion, and it kind of, and how it was looked at, they didn't move very far because the employees were still there, and they were contributing to the area. I did the proactive, and the other one that kind of bothered me was, and as far as the training of the workforce, it could be a vicious circle. You can train all the people you want, and if there's nobody to employ them, they'll go someplace else. And if a company comes in and needs certain skills, they're not there. So in one respect, they'll move out because there's no employment. Another firm wants to come in, but there's no skilled labor. So how that is solved, I don't know. I've just seen it before. So, and the other one is make sure the ambulance service that we get and wind up is, I'm assuming it's better than, I guess, sort of the current one we have.
Thank you, Keith. Susie?
Well, first of all, Joe, thank you guys, you and John, for hosting us. I want to thank the current supervisors for the job they do and they have done. Thanks to them reducing their budget, they're leading by example, which I think we all should do. So kudos to them. I'm also very pleased to hear that the nuisance properties are being dealt with, because all we can do is try. I want to say that I believe that my personal previous employment and my vision for the future gives me a very good background to build on, to work for everybody in Jefferson County. I feel I'm a very good listener, and I would really appreciate your vote on November 3rd. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Susie. This concludes our meet, the County Supervisor Candidate Forum. Thank you to everyone that joined us online, and a special thank you for the candidates for participating tonight. This forum and Tuesday night's Sheriff Candidate Forum will be available on the Jefferson County Farm Bureau Facebook page and the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center's YouTube channel. Remember to get out and vote. Good night, and remember to wash your hands. Thank you.